Welcome to Wizards Whimsy. I'm your host, Patrick. Today we're going to talk about the future of Commander. If you haven't seen it yet, there is an article on Wizards of the Coast website on the future of Commander. So after the bannings and all the threats that the RC had received, talking with Wizards has agreed to take control of Commander off of the Rules Committee. They are better equipped to handle such discourse. As a matter of fact, they also realized just how big of a task these volunteers were undertaking. That's something to look at. They were not getting paid by Wizards. They had their regular day jobs and was handling Commander on their spare time when they're not spending time with their families, or even giving up time spending with their families to try to, garner a better experience with Commander. I know that I mentioned that I felt some stuff was off with the banning and how it happened. I didn't disagree with the bans. I disagreed with how the bans occurred. I thought that their reasons for banning the cards were sound, that they just didn't go far enough, that there was other cards that they should have hit as well if they were trying to do that. So now Wizards has taken control, and they do have a Discord up, and they do have a channel on their Discord so that people can go join up and start talking about the changes. And one of the changes that they're going to end up doing is, trying to come up with power brackets for Commander decks, which I don't think that's going to work. I mean, because if you're starting off with a precon being at a 1, but then you're looking at different cards, like, they mentioned Ancient Tomb being a bracket 4, or being from bracket 4. So if you have any card that is in a higher bracket in your deck, it is whatever that highest bracket is. So if you have an Ancient Tomb in your deck, that would be a bracket 4. Now, one of the things I want y'all to look at is every precon comes with a Soul Ring. A Soul Ring is a very powerful card. It can be argued on the power level or the power difference between Mana Crypt and Soul Ring. And the real power comes with the cards that are played with it, because if you turn 1 land, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and have nothing else to play, you pass the turn. Your next turn, you play a land, you have 5 mana. The same is true with Mana Crypt. So if you turn 1 land, Mana Crypt into a Signet, and have nothing else to play, on your next turn, whenever you play your land, you have 5 mana. The only difference is that your upkeep, you could take 3 damage as opposed to paying that initial mana. Depending on the circumstances or not, is whether or not Soul Ring and Mana Crypt, which one is actually more powerful. In CEDH, being able to have that 0-drop into another 0-drop into a Signet, that could actually get you the game on turn 1, casting Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation. Whereas if you changed out the Mana Crypt to a Soul Ring, you would not be able to do that because you wouldn't have that extra mana. So depending on how it's played and what kind of deck and what else is in the deck is, I think, what you're going to have to look at as far as trying to rank the deck. Can it combo off on turn 1? Then it's probably going to be a power bracket number 4. If it can't combo off in the early turns, it's going to be a lower bracket. Like, it could be a 1 or a 2, but still having that same card, except for you have the disadvantage of losing 3 life at your upkeep if you lose the flip. So depending on the rest of the deck and how the rest of the deck is built, that will be what your power bracket should be. I honestly think they need to just stay away from the power bracket. It'd probably be a lot easier to just go ban for casual, ban for competitive. having the two lists, because you're going to have a larger list with the casual than you would with the competitive. And of course, you can always rule zero in any cards from the competitive into the casual if that's what your play group would like to do. And that's basically what they're saying here, is that, well, if you're building something on theme, like an ancient tomb, and you have a tomb deck, you'll basically say, hey, I have ancient tomb in my tomb deck because it's very flavorful and all my cards are tombs. I know it's a bracket 4 because I have this one card in there, but the rest of the cards in here are bracket 2. So is it all right if I play? I think trying to do the brackets will be way too confusing because everyone is going to look at the power levels different. So you would have to actually have a list of every Magic card printed with their power level or where they fall in the brackets. And just because, hey, it's an extra turn spell, paying 5 mana for it, is it bracket 4? All right, well, now I'm looping it where I'm going infinite extra turns. That deck would be a bracket 4 probably. So it's going to depend on how the deck is built. And I think the best way to do that is to stick with the tried and true ban list and just have one for casual and one for competitive. That way, if someone, wants to allow the silver bordered cards, you have that silver bordered project that they were working on, don't know the state of that, if they drop that, or if Wizards is taking that over as well, you could have that in the casual and leave it out of the competitive. That's the biggest thing right now that they're trying to do, and they're asking for community input, and they would like to see people go to the official Magic Discord and under Commander News channel, go ahead and sign up and start giving thoughts and insights into that. Now, they will not put up with any harassing or threatening, so don't go in there and be douchebags. Just go in there with the idea of trying to be helpful. This is your thoughts. This is what you're feeling that could help the community, because right now the community split, and it's split again on whether or not having the rules committee gone and Wizards of the Coast taking over is a good thing or a bad thing. Everybody's pretty much leaning towards it's not a good idea. From a competitive standpoint, it's probably a good idea to have Wizards and let Wizards handle a competitive ban list, but I do not feel, as far as the casual, I don't think Wizards is up to the task either. They really need the help from the community, and they need the help from the community worldwide. Commander has a global impact, and that's something that, 5 people that's volunteering and using their spare time, that could be overwhelming. And then you add on when they're trying to make changes that they feel is positive, getting threats, people threatening their families, their lives. That's a little too much to ask anybody to put up with. And so I can understand why they would decide to step away. It is a very daunting task because it's not like it was whenever it was first created. It's not, a few hundred people going to a few thousand people to a couple 100,000 people to now it's millions, if not billions of people play Magic the Gathering, and trying to satisfy everyone is not going to work. We're going to have to come up with compromises, and that's what we really need to look at, is how can we compromise? How can we make this play experience better? Nobody wants to, drop their kids off at a local game store, or take their kids to a local game store where they get bullied because this person's playing a higher power deck and is refusing to go to a lower power deck. I'm not sure where all that happens. I've heard of it, in my local game store a couple of times, But most of the time, if someone has a high power deck and that's all they have, they will let the pod that they're trying to get into it, hey, I have this very high powered deck. It is a competitive deck. I can play it and I can, not do the combos. Or they might be, hey, I want to test out my competitive deck. I have a tournament coming up and I need to get some play testing in. Do you mind if I play? I want to, learn the combos and make sure that I see the combo lines. It will not be an enjoyable game for you, but it would help me out greatly to prepare for this, tournament. A lot of times the people in the pod will be like, yeah, it's no problem, go ahead. Because sometimes they like to see, the cool, powerful stuff that players can do. But if you're not having that conversation and letting them know what kind of deck you're playing with, yeah, they're going to be upset and they're not going to have a very good time. And there's a chance that they might not, especially if it's their first time. It's their first time going to that LGS. They might decide not to go because they felt bullied. So having conversations is very important, and it's simple to do. It's real easy. Just say, hey, I have a combo deck that is a competitive combo deck that I would like to test out. If they say no, go sit down and wait for the next group of people to come in, or ask the next group if they would be interested. The same needs to be said if you're coming in and you just bought a pre-con and you're wanting to try it out, and you walk up to a pod that is competitive players. You need to be able to have that discussion and be able to say, hey, I have a pre-con, because they'll most likely tell you you're not going to have any fun here because our games are over in 5 minutes. So the conversation is still going to take place no matter if there is a power bracket or if it's just one ban list versus another ban list. Now, I'd love to hear what your ideas are on what they could do and how it would help the community. Do you think the power brackets is a good idea, and how would you rank the cards? Because it's not just one card that is super powerful. It's, multiple cards together, or at least 2 cards together that make something powerful. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you could do in the brackets, as far as how you would rank cards. How would you rank the decks? I mean, Counterspell is a pretty powerful spell, and it stops a lot of things. Would that be considered a bracket 4? Or is it a bracket 2 or a bracket 1? I mean, it all depends on the card. So make sure when you're leaving a comment, you hit that like button, subscribe button, and go ahead and share this video out. Definitely go and join the Discord for Magic and put your thoughts and what you think would work best going forward. We can't focus on the past. We need to look forward and move forward. And the only way that that's going to happen in a positive way is if people actually start coming up and, letting Wizards know what their ideas are. You never know, they might actually take your idea and run with it. So if you don't tell them, they don't know and it won't happen. But if you do tell them, there is a chance that they could take that idea and run with it, or they could take part of the idea and build off of it. So until next time, keep slinging those spells.